Good evening and welcome. My name is Allison Arnold. I'm the Adult Services Manager here at the Lake Oswego Public Library, and I'm so glad that you're all joining us this evening. Before we begin, I just wanted to start with a couple of housekeeping items. You may have noticed that KATU News is here, and they'll be filming parts of the presentation tonight. And they're doing a story about Disability Pride Month, and it's going to be broadcasted at a later date. They may wish to interview some of the attendees, and I just wanted to make sure that you knew that your participation is completely voluntary in that. We ask that you please silence your cell phones if you haven't done so already. And we have a brief survey at the one of the tables in the back. And so after the program, we would love to hear your feedback if you wanted to take a few minutes to complete that survey. Let's see. We also have assistive listening devices. So if you would like assistance hearing the event, feel free to pick one of those up and we can help you with it. I'd be happy to help you with it in the back. And now I'd like to say a word about Disability Pride Month. So tonight's event is part of a series of events that the city has planned to celebrate Disability Pride Month, which is an annual event celebrated in July to commemorate the passing of the Americans with Disabilities Act on July 26, 1990. It recognizes and honors the history, achievements, experiences, and struggles of people with disabilities. Disability Pride Month promotes visibility and mainstream awareness of the positive pride felt by people with disabilities. And it's an opportunity to educate the public about disability issues, challenge stereotypes and stigmas, and promote a more inclusive and respectful community. So tonight we have a special presentation on raising puppies for Guide Dogs for the Blind. And we'll hear from Lori Bryan and Linda Owen, two volunteer puppy raisers for Guide Dogs for the Blind, and Sherry Chauvin, a guide dog user. And they will give an overview of the Guide Dogs for the Blind program, and you'll get to hear about each of their unique experiences and learn about the amazing dogs that they work with. So this presentation will last about 45 minutes, and then we'll have time to take questions from the audience. And I'll walk around with this microphone so we can all hear each other. So please join me in welcoming puppy raiser Lori Bryan.
Thank you. We're going to each introduce ourselves and our dogs as we come up. As she said, I'm Lori Bryan. I am raising a male golden retriever that Deb is holding. His name is Fado, which is Portuguese, and it's a melody or a dance in Portugal, and we did have to learn how to say his name. Let's start with a history of Guide Dogs for the Blind. In 1942 in Los Gatos, California, Louis Merrihew and Dawn Donaldson trained two guide dogs for their first graduating class. The third dog they trained, Blonde, a rescue German Shepherd, was paired with Sergeant Leonard Folk, the first serviceman to graduate from Guide Dogs for the Blind, and was the publicity team to reach their goal of guide dogs for veterans who were blind and visually impaired. Guide Dogs for the Blind has been located in San Rafael, California since 1947 and also has a second campus in Boring, Oregon, opened in 1995. At Guide Dogs for the Blind, we believe that everyone deserves to move through the world safely and confidently to live the life they want to live. Guide Dogs for the Blind has trained more than 16,000 teams over the last 82 years. Guide Dogs for the Blind's clients come from throughout North America and are students, parents, professors, engineers, Olympians, and practically any other role you can think of. The mission has also expanded to 3 kinds of programs over time: Guide Dog Mobility Program, Orientation and Mobility Program, and the Canine Buddy Program. Guide Dogs for the Blind not only improves mobility for our clients, but we also further inclusion and advocate for policies for reforms to change how the world views blindness. Guide Dogs for the Blind services are provided free of charge, and it receives no government funding. Puppy raisers play a huge role in Guide Dogs for the Blind's life-changing mission. Guide Dogs for the Blind has 3,000 paid employees, but nearly 3,000 puppy raising volunteers. Guide Dogs for the Blind Guide Dogs for the Blind for their program breeds their own puppies, and they are born in the Puppy Center on the California campus. Guide Dogs for the Blind uses Labrador Retrievers, Golden Retrievers, and a cross between the Labrador Retrievers and the Golden Retrievers. Puppy raisers receive an 8-week-old puppy and care for them for 13 to 15 months. Today we'll be sharing how we care for and train our baby puppies. This is an important part of their journey to becoming a guide dog, which will also help someone who is blind or visually impaired move safely and confidently through the world. And if you are interested in learning more about Guide Dogs for the Blind's mission, volunteering, or donated, please visit us at guidedogs.com. The organization also hosts graduations and tours on its campus, and that information is also available on their website, and there's some literature in the back of the room that you're free to take. Next is Deb is going to be talking about what puppy raisers do.
Hi, I'm Deb Abella Chauvin, and I am Sherry Chauvin's wife. And I'm going to be narrating the demonstrations that Lori is going to be doing today. One of the main jobs of the puppy raisers is to teach puppy good manners and provide socialization, such as riding public transportation and going to schools, movies, sporting events, museums, and much more to get them comfortable in many environments. This is an important part of the puppy's journey in becoming a guide dog. As you can see, Haviland's very relaxed. So, we will go ahead and show you a few of the skills that we teach our new puppies between the ages of 2 and 5 months.
That would be us.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Roxy. Roxy is 4 months old, and so she is just beginning her journey of learning the commands. And so some of what we demonstrate might be successful, and some of it might take a little bit of repetition to get her to do what she's supposed to do.
All right. Is that better? Okay. So sorry. Just with any new puppy, we start by teaching them their name. To do this, raisers play the "What is your name" game with the puppies. You'll see when Fido and Roxy hear their raisers call their names, they perk up and look to their raisers. When the pups respond as expected, they receive kibble as a reward. Lots of praise and pets, forming a positive association with their name. The second part of the activity is to have the puppy touch your hand, and this would allow you to gently grasp their collar. This is the foundation of recall. Again, they receive kibble and verbal praise. As am I. Puppies are also taught sit and down using kibble rewards. You'll see that for down command, puppies may need a kibble to lure them into that position. Puppy raisers also teach their pups, let's go. This is used to introduce leash and to teach them to walk on the leash for sightseeing walks. These walks are important for puppies to observe and process their environment, and it helps puppies develop confidence as they mature. Good job. Look at her go. Another skills puppies learn early is called getting dressed for work. This is when the puppies are introduced to putting on their puppy jackets and head collars. It is important to make this fun so the pups are eager to get dressed because they will wear a harness when they are working guides. Lori and Linda will now demo with their pups.
So this is called the gentle leader, and it goes over their nose, and then buckles behind their ears. Good job, big girl. And the jacket goes on, and we have small, medium, and large jackets. So as they grow, they move up. Good job. Look at you. What a good puppy.
Hey, great job, y'all. As you can see, the dogs receive a food reward as the jacket goes over their heads and plenty of praise to make it fun. Roxy is wearing a gentle leader and Fido is wearing a haughty leader. Both types of head collars assist in training. Puppies can eat and drink while in these collars. The next thing that we're going to demo for you is called the bucket game. The bucket game helps puppies to learn to calmly accept all sorts of handling and grooming. Basically, they are teaching puppies to focus on the bucket holding some of their kibble as they are being handled. So as they sit on the floor with the pups, with the bucket in sight, we give them rewards from the bucket as they sit still. We advance to handling and touching the puppy from their nose to their toes, so everything in between, and we reward them for this. As the pup becomes skilled at this game, we start to use the bucket game to train them to settle calmly for things such as brushing their coat, nail trimming, toothbrushing, and only with doggy toothbrush, by the way, or toothpaste, by the way, and ear cleaning. Fido gets a lick mat with peanut butter on it to help him accept being brushed and having his nails done. Look at that. He's doing so good. So good. As puppies grow, the focus is on shaping good behavior and teaching good house manners. He's doing so good. Guide dog puppies learn to spend their free time at home sitting quietly between play sessions, playing with their own toys, and also not getting on furniture or chewing inappropriate items. We want them to be welcome in any home. As they reach about 6 months of age, they move into the next phase of learning of new skills and new games. Once they're approximately 11 months old, they begin working on activities to prepare them for formal guide dog training. I will next hand off to Linda, who will talk about puppies going into training.
Okay, so formal training for puppies starts when they are approximately 14 to 16 months old, and it is based on successful completion of the steps all along the way as they're evaluated on a quarterly basis. So the evaluations are done by what we call a community field rep, and she is the one that makes the final decision if this puppy is ready to go into training. So as puppy raisers, we have to give them back when they're approximately 14 months old, again, 14 to 16. It's kind of a bittersweet, you're so excited that they made it and that they're going to go into their training, but you're turning back a puppy that you've had for approximately the past year. So it's kind of a bittersweet. So the formal training happens on the Oregon campus and on the California campus. There are 8 phases that they go through, and they post it weekly on their website so that we as puppy raisers can track on what they're learning and how they're doing, and so that they know what their puppy is handling. So as the puppies are returned to campus, they are settled into the environment. They're not trained right away. They're given a little bit of time to decompress. They are assigned a roommate so that there's usually 2 dogs per kennel so that they kind of have some socialization. And they get to play with new toys, and they get to experience the kennel runs, and so that they're comfortable being on the campus and being handled by new people. Before they actually start their training, most dogs are evaluated as potential breeders. Guide Dogs breeds and produces all of their own puppies on the California campus, and they have very high standards for the dogs that go and become breeders. And so if the puppy passes the evaluations that they have for the health standards, then they would go down to California and make puppies. And if not, then they are spayed or neutered, and once they have recovered, then they are put into training. I currently have my previous puppy to this one was spayed, and she's completed the first 2 out of 8 phases. So I can keep track of her every week and see what she's doing. Let's see. So depending on the dog and depending on their reaction to the training, it can take as little as 3 months, or it can take up to 6 months or more, depending on the individual dog. And then when they have applications from the humans that want a guide dog, sometimes they have very specific requirements with the dog that they're going to be using. And so guide dogs can tailor train. Like if Lori has a specific requirement for the dog that she's going to need, then as a trainer, I can train the dog ahead of time and prepare the dog so that when Lori actually comes to campus to get her dog, she has a dog that's going to be suited to her specific needs. Sometimes the way it is now, people who apply for a guide dog have a long waiting list. Because of COVID, breeding went way down, and so there weren't as many dogs in the pipeline getting ready to be graduated and matched with a human. Now they're ramping up the production, and they're producing more puppies, and so we're kind of getting caught up now. And so there's not as long as a waiting list. Once the human and the dogs are together on the campus, they spend 2 weeks with a trainer so that the human learns the commands that the dogs have been taught, so that they know how to use this fantastic tool that they've been given. And then they have this wonderful graduation ceremony that's on the campus, and the general public is welcome to come to that. Everybody's happy, and they're scared, and they're laughing, and they're crying, and it's the whole range of human emotions. And the puppy raisers get to go, and the puppy raisers help present the dog to the human, and it's wonderful. And then once the people and the dogs are a team and they have graduated, they go back home again. Guide Dogs works with people all across the United States. They pay all of the expenses for the dog. They pay for the people to come to Portland to get their dogs, or California, and then they also pay for them to get home again. And then they pay for veterinary support, and they do touch-up calls if there's something that the dog is doing that the blind human doesn't know how to deal with. They haven't expected that particular problem. Then Guide Dogs can talk them through that so that they can continue to be successful. And then Guide Dogs is the one who makes the decision when the dog is no longer a strong guide. As they age, they're not as strong in their physical ability. They're losing maybe some of their cognitive ability. And the human who is blind would want to keep that dog forever. And it just, at some point, is just not safe. And so the human can choose to keep that dog as a pet and get a new dog, or they surrender the dog back to Guide Dogs, and Guide Dogs then adopts them. And so the general public can apply to Guide Dogs for the Blind to take one of those dogs. But they're very popular. So it's not a high likelihood of getting a particular dog. So, next.
Can you hear? Yeah. So hi everybody, my name is Sherry, as we said a little bit earlier. This is my guide dog, Haviland. She is a 5.5-year-old female yellow Labrador Retriever. We have been a team for about 3 years, and I'm blind. So I think a lot of people, I'm going to start talking about blindness and then move into some of the mobility tools that we use, and then I'll talk about the dogs. So a lot of people think that blindness is complete absence of light, dark, black, see nothing. But actually about 90% of people who are blind have some level of functional vision, like light perception or better. So there are many causes of blindness, right? There's disease, eye disease. There's disease like diabetes that causes diabetic retinopathy and vision loss. People can be born blind, or people can have an injury that causes blindness. So there's lots of different types of reasons for blindness. And basically no two people manifest or show the same symptoms when you're blind. So what I see with my eye disease compared to someone else is completely different, could be completely different. For example, maybe people are familiar with macular degeneration. That's pretty common as people age. And macular degeneration manifests itself by having no central vision. But their peripheral vision generally is not affected. For myself, I have an eye disease called glaucoma, and it's advanced. And I see the equivalent of, you remember those red coffee stir straws? They're very, very tiny, right? So I see the equivalent of that. I have no peripheral vision. I don't see anybody to my right. I don't see my dog. I don't see anything above or beside. I just see what's right in front of me. So, and only with one eye. So that's why I need a guide dog for safety. So just trying to explain again that there's no two people are the same. Mobility tools. So there are about 4 types of mobility tools, and I use that word because that's technically what she is, the dog is, but she, of course, is way more than that. But I just want to be sure that you understand I'm only using that as a phrase and not how I feel. So I'll talk real quickly about a couple of them. One of the newer types of mobility tools people use are technology related. So GPS, they'll put something in their phone will talk and tell them what's going along the way. They're apps specifically for people who are blind. It talks to them and tells them there's a Starbucks 30 feet on your right or whatever. There's also wearable technology where people have glasses that have cameras, and that camera, along with AI, is telling you kind of what is happening as you go. And then there's also where you can call a service. There's a couple of services you can call, and using your camera on your phone, the person on the other end will see what it is that you're looking at and will explain it to you as you go. That can be helpful for people in a grocery store setting when you're trying to read labels, that kind of thing. So that's one method. The next method, is human guide. So a human guide or a sighted guide is simply when you ask a human, can I ask a human? Stay. To assist me, so I'm going to ask Deb if she'll do sighted guide with me. And all I do is I take her elbow, or I might, depending the person might feel more comfortable putting their hand on the shoulder. Stay. And then we'll just walk normally. And we'll just have a normal conversation. I'll follow along and stop. Like the dog. Sorry, that was a mistake. That was just habit. Sorry. Halt. And then she would just stop at any type of elevation change or anything that she thinks I need to know for my safety. But other than that, you just walk normally. I'm like a half step behind her. The third type of mobility tool, and I want to say one other thing about it, is that people move between things all the time. So I don't always use just the dog. I don't always use my white cane. I don't always use sighted guide. I'm using different things every day, basically. So the next thing is the white cane, and that's literally what it's called, the long white cane, in the U.S. anyway. It's not called a stick. Some people call it, it's going to make a noise, so. And the white cane's purpose is to find obstacles. So what I do is I sweep it back and forth, and I know when I run into something, okay, so here's my path. I can see that I'm safe to go in between these two chairs, etc. So the white cane will tell me where something is. It will also show me if there's a drop-off, if I get to a curb or something and it drops off, or I get to stairs and the cane will drop off the edge. I have to pay attention to that because sometimes you get to going and you're talking and all of a sudden you go off and you aren't paying attention and you go because, you're not listening to your cane. So it's not something that you use just like on your own. I went to several weeks of training called orientation and mobility training, and to learn how to use the cane effectively, how to learn how to navigate, how to read traffic, all kinds of different things that you learn for your safety. And once you have gotten that proficiency down, you can then apply to receive a guide dog. So it is required that you have strong orientation and mobility skills, and I'll tell you why in just a second. So let me put this away. All right. So the fourth and my favorite, but that's my personal preference, is a guide dog. And again, having this from Guide Dogs for the Blind. This is according to the National Federation for the Blind, only about 5% of people who are blind utilize a guide dog as their mobility tool. And there's lots of reasons for that. Could be just personal preference. Some people aren't as comfortable around dogs. Maybe they live in a situation where it's not a great, there's no yard or whatever. There's nothing, not a good setup for the dog. Lots of different reasons. Yeah, just personal preference. Sorry, lost my train of thought there. And my phone is ringing. Oh, okay. So, okay. So the difference, so one of the biggest things for me that the guide dog does in comparison to the cane or a sighted guide is just it promotes so much more independence for me. So I feel so much more confident and I can move through the world more freely with my trust in my dog. The white cane is great. It works fantastic, but it's different because sometimes people are afraid to approach me when I'm using the white cane. But when somebody has a dog, right, everybody is like, oh, you know, I mean, when we were sitting here, a lovely woman came up and talked to us. If I had been sitting with my white cane, most likely she would not have, right? So it just really promotes that kind of interaction and independence and lots of just goodwill, I think. She's a beautiful dog, right? So, and the other thing that guide dogs do that's different than a cane, if you remember, the cane it'll find an object by me hitting it. The guide dog will take me around that obstacle, so I will never even know that obstacle was there because she will just move us freely around it. I would demo that, but this is about the time she goes swimming with her best friend every night. So if I start to try and get her to head out there to show you a demo, she'd be like, let's go. So I think you're just going to have to believe me on that one. So yeah, so they will take you around obstacles. When they come to a curb, she will stop. And what I need to do is take my foot and I probe to see why she's stopped, because there's always a reason. They don't just stop for no reason. So I'll probe with my foot and I'll be like, oh, okay, there's a curb, and then I'll tell her forward. If we get to a set of stairs, if it's a downstairs, again, she'll stop. I'll probe with my foot. Sometimes she'll take me to the handrail itself, so then I'm like, oh, okay. If we get to an up curb or steps going up, she is taught to put her front paws on that step or the curb, so I know we're across the street safely and we're at the curb or we're going upstairs. They only know, they know more than that, but their commands that we are taught, that they are taught, are forward, right, left, halt, and then there's one called hop up, which is basically, hey, refocus, pay attention. You know how we walk many miles a day and sometimes in the same route, and so they get bored just like we do. And so I just need her to refocus. And so they're using the phrase hop up is what they're taught. All right. Don't step on the dog. Oh, okay. Oh. Good go down. Okay. So, I just have a couple more things, but one of the biggest things I like to talk about, I am so grateful for this dog. And one of the reasons why, besides what I've already told you, one of the other reasons I'm grateful is for puppy raisers. So, you know, Linda alluded to this and Lori talked a little bit about it, but I want to talk about it a little bit more. These puppy raisers are selfless. They volunteer to take the puppy when they're 8 weeks of age, as Linda said. They spend hours, days, months, weeks making sure these puppies are socialized. They take them on outings. They take them anywhere that a blind person might go, to church, to school, to work. I work in an office, and so my dog has to be able to settle. So, and quietly for 4 hours till we go out at lunch, and then settle for 4 hours in the afternoon. So the puppy raisers work on all of these skills so that I have a dog that is like this. I mean, she's amazing, right? So I just, handlers say that puppy raisers are our heroes, and I really believe that because this is volunteer. And, once they go, it's called recall, when they go back to campus, when they're about, 15 months, I think you said? Then the professional trainers take over, right? But before then, they can't get to college, as they call it, if they don't have all the skills they need. They won't make it. They'll be what might be choose another path path in life than becoming a guide dog. So without these puppy raisers, these dogs would not exist. So I wholeheartedly believe and appreciate everything that they do. Okay, so the last thing, I know, don't clap, because every time you clap, she thinks it's time to go. So, okay. So I'll talk about two things more quickly. Linda, again, talked about both of these, but aftercare. So once you graduate from school, so we go for 2 weeks. Like I said, the dog is fully trained. I'm just there to learn everything I need to about the dog and a guide dog lifestyle. Once we graduate, they don't just, Guide Dogs for the Blind doesn't just set you free. They are there for you for the life of this team. They are committed to making this team successful throughout, their life. Guide dogs, I think the average is about 9 years that they work, something like that. And so they are there for you the whole time. So you can call the support center. I actually have had, with a previous dog, I had to have them come out to help me with some issues I was having, which turned out to be my issues and not the dog. I needed more training when, it was my first dog and I didn't know. So I called the support center. They talked to me through some things. I needed some more help, so they sent a trainer out to work with me and the dog. So their follow-up program really is second to none of guide dog schools. So, and then lastly, Linda talked about the VFA program. It's called the Veterinary Financial Assistance. I'm actually going to read this because it's very accurate as to what they do. So VFA, Veterinary Financial Assistance from Guide Dogs for the Blind, provides financial assistance for veterinary care as needed for all working guide dog and canine buddy teams. Guide Dogs for the Blind never wants finances to be a barrier for people wanting to be partnered with a guide dog or canine buddy. And they don't want it to be an obstacle to receiving veterinary care. Everybody knows veterinary care is expensive. And we receive these dogs, as Linda said, at no cost. And I'm not going to put a number on it, but just think about the hours, the volunteer hours that goes into raising these puppies, the weeks of training that they receive once they get to campus, the follow-up care. These are true gifts to us as a blind handler. I am forever grateful to GDB, which is why I do these talks, because I cannot say enough good things about Guide Dogs for the Blind. I'm proud to be a client of theirs, proud to have this amazing guide dog. So thanks. And then Deb's going to say one quick thing before we wrap for questions.
So, is this still on? Hello? Okay, it is on. Okay. What I wanted to speak to was the observation, not needing a guide dog, but being part of a guide dog family, the impact and the change that this program has on people. Sherry works for a company that is vivacious and very active, and as she began to lose her sight, her world began to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And so once she got her first guide dog, people would come up to her and say, "Hey, it's so-and-so. Can I pet your dog? Can I engage with you?" Then people out in the community, same scenario. People would engage with her so she wasn't on this isolated island. And I watched the reemergence of this vivacious, independent person. Sherry spoke to this, and Linda spoke to this, but how many of you have ever raised a dog of your own? So can you imagine having a dog for a year and a half or longer, and then giving it to a program and a possible stranger to live out the rest of their life. That's what these volunteers do every single time they get a puppy. And then they pour all this love, this energy, this patience, the amount of patience that it takes to raise a puppy. And so what these volunteers do is truly an act of love and kindness and investment in our community. So I just wanted you to hear it from my perspective as a person who is a part of the guide dog family. Thank you.
Hello again. So now it's time for questions. I want you to feel free to ask any questions, and I will pass this mic around. Also, I wanted to let you know that KATU News would be happy to interview anyone who attended this program and ask them why they attended and if it was useful to them. So I think they're setting up for that right now. If you are interested in that, you can go on back, or if you'd like to stay and ask questions, you can do that. So I'll just pass this to whoever has a question.
Could someone speak a little to the idea of what is maybe required by a puppy raiser? What is required of the puppy raiser to be a successful one?
Let's see, is this still on? Yeah. Okay. I can answer that for you. The starting point is we ask you to go on the guidedogsfortheblind.com website. And there is a quick little application that you fill out. Once that's filled out, you are invited to attend a graduation in Boring, Oregon, and also a little introduction session. And then about 2 weeks after that, you go to a skills class where some of the puppies are at, and you get to practice the skills that a guide dog puppy raiser uses. And then you're invited to the club that is within the geographical area where you live that's closest for you to go to. You attend the meeting. We have you fill out an application online. We do a home visit. It's more like a home informational session. You fill out another form and you're on the list to get a puppy. So it can happen like within 4 weeks' time to 6 weeks' time from when you start to when you get a puppy. Yeah. Or we also have people who are puppy sitters. Maybe they want to practice with puppies a little bit before they actually raise the puppy, and it's a very valuable help for us that we have people within our group who will take our puppies while we're on vacation.
Any other questions?
This would be for Sherry. I just wanted to know, when you're out walking with your dog, and let's suppose you come to a red light and you're stopped there, I always wonder if I am allowed to talk to the dog or not if I see that the dog is in a working situation.
Are you a plant? Good question. And I actually had another thing I wanted to say too. I forgot. But so anytime a dog is in a harness or in the puppy jackets, they are working. So even if they're sleeping or like at my desk at work, although actually at work I don't have her in harness, but people know that she's still working even though she's at work with me sleeping. So anytime that happens, you always want to ask the handler for permission. Can I talk to your dog? Can I pet your dog? And, you know, if I have time, I will absolutely allow that. Probably not at a red light, but I will take her harness off because that way she can make that transition in her mind that, okay, I'm not working now, and allow you to pet her when she's in good, sitting or in behaving, right? Which I imagine is the same with the puppy raiser. You wouldn't let somebody pet the puppy if it's, a little too excited, right? So same thing. I want to say one quick thing about the red light that reminded me, and I forgot to say this earlier. Do you think that guide dogs know how to read traffic signals? To know when it's safe to cross? No. Who said no? That was right. That's correct. So remember how I talked about orientation and mobility training? My job as a handler is to listen for traffic and understand the flow of traffic pattern flow, to make sure that it's safe to cross. The dog's job is to cross safely with me, so to take me across safely. So she will go on command. I will tell her forward. She won't cross until I think it's safe to go. There is something called intelligent disobedience these dogs have. If I think that it is safe to go and I tell her forward, she could potentially not go because she realizes there's oncoming traffic that I may not have picked up. So they're super smart, and but they do go on command. They don't just, okay, we're going across the street now. It's like I have to give her that command, which means I have to know whether it's safe to actually cross. And one other thing I want to ask that question is, do you think that that she can take me to Starbucks if I say, let's go to Starbucks? Correct. Actually, she could if I've gone on the same Starbucks for the last 5 days or whatever, and I put a name to it, she could. But my job, again, as a handler, is to understand how to get from point A to point B, and I give her those commands, right, left, forward, whatever. And then eventually, she will learn if we go the same, like to work, she knows how to get to work because we do it every day. You're patterning that behavior for her, and so then she can figure that out. But in general, she could find the Starbucks we go to every day, but she couldn't find a Starbucks in a different city. So thanks for that question.
Other questions? Yes.
The gentleman that's sitting to my right has glaucoma, and he is blind in one eye. And I noticed you are able to read with large print. When did you, or do you have glaucoma in both eyes then? Okay. I think you just have it in one, don't you?
Both eyes?
Both eyes, okay. Are you able to drive?
Oh, no.
No?
No, I can't, no.
Have you ever been able to?
Yes, I was diagnosed with glaucoma about 12 years ago and lost my vision for about 6 months. Yeah, so I was driving, began losing my vision, gave up my driver's license, started riding a bike, told my eye doctor I was riding a bike. She said, "You're doing what?" I said, "Ride a bike." She's like, "No, because you have no peripheral vision. So you cannot ride a bike because you do not know what's going on around you. You only see what's in front of you." So then I started getting training from Organ Commission for the Blind on how to use the white cane.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Time for more questions if anyone has any. Okay.
You spoke about veterinary costs. When you're a puppy raiser, are veterinary costs also covered?
They give you the option. You have the option of paying the veterinary bill yourself, and you can deduct it as a donation off your taxes because they are a 501c3, or you can turn it in to Guide Dogs and they will reimburse you. So it's your choice because there's a lot of expenses.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, hi. I was just wondering, I have a friend who recently lost sight in one of her eyes and has really the peripheral vision is really, really hard for her. And I'm just wondering, like, how hard is it to qualify? Do you need to be, I'm just wondering what the qualifications are because it sounds like someone else kind of was wondering too.
Yes. So in order to qualify for a guide dog from Guide Dogs for the Blind, I believe this is actually all programs who have guide dogs, is you have to be diagnosed with something that causes what you have to be legally blind, which and I may be stretching here, but I believe the legal definition is 2200 vision or worse in your better eye, or 10 or 20 degrees of peripheral vision or less. So you have to go through to an ophthalmologist and be diagnosed as legally blind before you would qualify for an actual guide dog. And again, you would have to get orientation and mobility training before you could also get a guide dog. So, does that answer your question?
Okay, so I was just wondering also, if someone doesn't live in the area and they do need the mobility training, is it over in different states, or do they come to get the mobility training?
Yes, so that's a hard one because there's really a shortage of qualified orientation and mobility instructors. It's a very skilled, obviously a skilled thing to have to be. Most states have a state organization like we do here, Oregon Commission for the Blind. I know you said this person's not in state, but they have satellite offices as well in Oregon. And so many states also have those things. Some states have better services for the blind than others. However, and we talked about this very briefly, Guide Dogs for the Blind has a newer program in the last couple of years, and it is specifically to teach people orientation and mobility. So you can apply to that program if you're legally blind, and they will put you through, I believe it's 2 weeks of orientation and mobility training. Once you go home and you feel comfortable with that, then maybe you want to come back and apply for a Guide Dogs for the Blind as well. So there are options out there. That's one of the newer ones that I understand is really successful, and people do well with that training, that one-on-one training.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Sherry, Linda, Lori, and Deb. And thank you to the beautiful dogs. And thank you to all of you for coming. If you would take a moment to fill out a survey in the back and let us know what you thought about tonight's program, I really appreciate it. But we hope you have a wonderful evening.
You're welcome. So do you do, oops, I guess the mic's still on.